Hey boys, it's HarmNone. With the release of the Agents of Sabotage DLC into GTA Online in December here, we got a whole bunch of new IMANI tech capable vehicles, making things a little confusing for newer players or people that don't know a lot about IMANI tech and the capabilities found on some of the cars, as well as the lack of capabilities on certain other IMANI tech cars as well. Today we're going to be going over the 10 best IMANI tech vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online. Leave a like if you enjoy, or if you learned something, dislike if you don't, and consider subscribing if you're new. Let's go ahead and get into it. Starting off at number 10, I wanted to include a budget-friendly option, so we have the Bravado Greenwood coming up first, and this is the cheapest IMANI tech capable vehicle, coming in at $1,098,750 if you got the trade price. Now if you don't, it's going to be $1,465,000. Now technically the Greenwood isn't actually the cheapest IMANI tech car in the game, but it is the cheapest good IMANI tech car in the game, if you will. That's due to the fact that this thing does have the armor plating, which is very helpful on the IMANI tech cars, and honestly none of the cars in this list are going to not have the armor plating, because an IMANI tech car without armor plating is kind of useless in my opinion. The Greenwood's a decent vehicle though. It is a muscle car and it is super cheap. It's got 4 seats for 4 players. It gets access to the wheelie, of course, because it's in the muscle car category, and it does have the IMANI tech missile lock-on jammer available for it, or of course the remote control device. And it does have optional proximity mines that you can drop behind you. There are going to be the slick variant of those proximity mines. So if people are pursuing you, they are going to get spun out whenever they hit those oil slicks, and that is going to let you get away a little bit quicker. For a muscle car, this thing has pretty decent handling. The acceleration and launch off the line is also pretty good, with a top speed that is not exactly the most competitive, but is fast enough to get you out of trouble in most scenarios. The Greenwood also has some nice customization to go with it as well. Overall, it is a very solid option for how much money it actually costs. Next up at number 9, we're going to the exact opposite end of the spectrum with the Dubocci Champion. This is like the most expensive IMANI tech vehicle in the entire game. It goes for $2,995,000 for the trade price. And if you don't have the trade price, it's going to be $3,750,000, which is an extremely overpriced price point for this vehicle, if I'm being completely honest, but I can't deny just how good the Champion actually is. It just does come at an extreme cost premium, but that is of course why it is at number 9 on the list and not higher up. The Dubocci Champion is what I refer to as a first-gen IMANI tech vehicle, and that is due to the fact that this thing has optional front-mounted machine guns, which you can apply to it. These deal a pretty hefty amount of damage, and they are quite nice to have. In addition to this, it also has bullet-resistant windows. These can take about 15 shots from an assault rifle before breaking, and the bullets actually get through to the players inside. Plus, it also does have the missile lock-on jammer, or of course the remote control device that can be applied to it, as well as the oil slick proximity mine, and it also does come with the armor plating upgrade for it as well. This is going to allow it to take 4 RPGs and about 12 homing missiles, which is insane. The Champion's within the supercar category, and it's one of only a few IMANI tech capable supercars. Granted, it's not that good of a supercar, but it is a supercar nonetheless. It doesn't have the best launch off the line. Honestly, the Greenwood probably has a slightly better launch, but the acceleration and top speed on the Champion are far superior to the Greenwood that we just talked about, which is pretty good. The handling is honestly on par, maybe a little bit better on the Champion than it is on the Greenwood as well, and I do think that this car does look pretty cool, and the customization options are kind of decent for it as well. At number 8, we have the Enis Paragon S. This is going to cost you $2,010,000, which is a pretty fair price all things considered. This thing is a sports car. It's all-wheel drive, so it's going to get a great launch off the line. It also has a pretty decent top speed, and the handling is pretty fantastic on it as well. Not going to lie, the customization is not my favorite on the Paragon S. It feels very confusing to me, but it is still a very good car at the end of the day. Now, this is not a first-gen IMANI tech car like the Dubocci Champion, and that is going to result in it not having bullet-resistant windows, and no optional front-mounted machine guns are available for it. However, it does get the armor plating upgrade as well as the lock-on jammer or the remote control device, and it of course gets the oil slick proximity mine dropper as well, which is pretty good. Overall, the Enis Paragon S comes in an awesome package, and I definitely do recommend this car. It is pretty awesome, but there are slightly better cars ahead of it on the list, so let's go ahead and talk about number 7. At number 7, we got the Obey Omni EGT for $1,795,000. This thing is a fantastic car. It's based off of the Audi e-tron GT in real life. It's a 4-door, fully electric IMANI Tech vehicle. Now, the fully electric IMANI Tech vehicles operate slightly differently to the non-fully electric IMANI Tech vehicles. The full EV IMANI Tech vehicles can take 12 RPGs before blowing up, as opposed to the internal combustion engine vehicles that can only take 4 RPGs. However, they can take the same amount of homing missiles, which is 12, and sticky bombs, which is also 12. So the EGT definitely does have superior armor to anything else we've talked about on the list, but it does come at a bit of a cost because the electric cars do suffer in the handling department as well as the top speed department. The Obey Omni EGT tops out at about 111 miles per hour, which is not that good. However, its acceleration up to that lower top speed is pretty insane. It is all-wheel drive, so it gets an insane launch off the line, and the acceleration is crazy. And of course, because it's electric, it doesn't shift gears, so you're just going to go up to that top speed of 111 and you're going to stay there. And it's going to happen really, really fast. Plus, the EGT also gets a lot of really good customization options, and I do think it is truly a pretty awesome car. Plus, it has an active rear spoiler, which I think is pretty neat. At number 6, we got the Canis Terminus for $1,877,500. The Canis Terminus has moved up a slot since I ranked all the IMANI Tech cars, and that's because this thing is just so damn capable in any environment. It's fast on-road, it's fast off-road, and it's a pretty reasonable price for the entire package of only $1,877,500, which could be a lot worse. This is also the #1 best off-road class vehicle in GTA Online, so if you want to do some racing, the Canis Terminus is a fantastic vehicle to use. It's all-wheel drive, of course, it's got good ground clearance, it's great off-road, it's great in the snow as well, which I know is something to keep in mind right now, because the snow is going to be around for another week or so here in GTA Online. The Terminus also does have access to the armor plating ability, as well as the missile lock-on jammer or the remote control device, as well as the slick mines, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, no front-mounted MGs for this thing or bullet-resistant windows, but it still is a pretty fantastic vehicle in terms of an entire package. You can't really beat the Terminus, especially off-road, but there are a few vehicles that are slightly better on-road, so we're going to talk about those next. At number 5, we got the Enos Jubilee for $1,237,500 if you have the trade price, to only $1,650,000 if you don't have the trade price. So this thing comes in at a pretty good price point. In addition to this, the Enos Jubilee is an all-wheel drive SUV, so it's going to get good traction off the line, it corners really well, and it does have a pretty decent top speed as far as SUVs are concerned as well. In addition to this, it's a first-gen IMANI Tech car, so it gets access to the front-mounted machine guns as well as the bullet-resistant windows, on top of armor plating, an oil slick proximity mine, and of course the ability to put the missile lock-on jammer on, or the remote control device. The Jubilee is a really, really good car, and there are a few reasons for this. It's very capable performance-wise, like I sort of mentioned when we started talking about it there, but also because the front-mounted machine gun location is pretty much ideal for shooting at players in supercars or sports cars, or really anything that's just a little bit lower down to the ground, because they shoot right at head level, which is really awesome, and you're going to be able to take out players super easily with the Jubilee. It's awesome for this, it is a fantastic vehicle to drive, and overall I definitely do recommend the Jubilee. And especially at the price point of only $1,237,500 if you have the trade price, this thing is a bargain for what you are getting. Next up at number 4, we got the Bravado Buffalo STX, a fan favorite. This thing goes for $1,612,500 if you got the trade price, and if you don't, it's going to be $2,150,000. And either of these price points are pretty good. A fun fact about the STX is that it actually gets a better lap time than the Ducati Champion around a track, which is pretty insane. Granted, they can't race together because the STX is within the muscle category and the Champion is within the super category. It's kind of telling though about how good the STX is, to be honest. And despite the STX being in the muscle category, this is actually one of the very best handling muscle cars in the entire game. Dare I say the best handling muscle car in the game. It gets really good traction, it gets good traction off the line, it has good handling, it has good acceleration, and a pretty good top speed of about 127 miles per hour. The STX also has lots of customization, and it is a first-gen IMANI Tech vehicle like the Enos Jubilee that we just talked about. And of course, this means it can have the front-mounted machine guns on it, as well as the bullet-resistant windows that it comes with as well, which is pretty good. Plus, armor plating, an oil slick proximity mine dropper, and of course, the missile lock-on chamber and the remote control device. The STX is a fantastic looking and performing vehicle. This is definitely a good one to have if you plan on driving around with more than one other friend, because it does have 4 seats as well, of course, meaning that this thing is just an overall very good package. And I definitely recommend owning an STX. I think it is very much worth it. And number 3, we got the Ocelot Virtue. This thing is going to come in at free, and the way that you're going to be able to get this thing for free is by completing the first and last dose missions from the Los Santos Drug Wars DLC. When you get to the end of those missions, you will be able to get an Ocelot Virtue for free and claim it, which is really, really awesome. Plus, technically, you're actually going to get paid to get the Virtue because you will be paid for completing these missions. So that's pretty cool. Now, if you don't feel like suffering through those missions, it is available to be purchased for $2,235,000 to $2,980,000 if you don't have the trade price. So it is going to get a lot more expensive than free, but it is well worth owning no matter what it's going to cost you, but I would advise you to try to get it for free at least. This vehicle, similar to the Obey Omni EGT, is fully electric, and that means it's going to get that same armor that the EGT gets, which is 12 RPGs, 12 homing missiles, or 12 sticky bombs, which is pretty good. Plus, the Ocelot Virtue is in the supercar category, and it's fully electric, which means it is the fastest vehicle in GTA Online to go down the drag strip. It is super, super quick. Now granted, it doesn't have a super high top speed, so you're going to be able to get ahead of cars, but cars with higher top speeds are going to pass you in the long run. So if you're going down the highway or something, you're not going to stay ahead in the Virtue for very long. But the acceleration is crazy fast. There's nothing in the game that can keep up with this thing, probably to 60 miles per hour. It's just that quick. Plus, of course, it gets the armor plating, the missile lock-on jammer or the remote control device, as well as the oil slick proximity mine dropper. It's got some nice customization. Overall, it's a good looking car. Now, the one drawback with the Virtue is the handling. It does not handle very well, in my opinion at least, but it's pretty easy to look past that when you get it for free. The Virtue is a great vehicle, and you should definitely try to pick it up by completing those first and last dose missions. Next up at number 2, if you want something that's got a much higher top speed than the Ocelot Virtue with kind of similar handling, but in a much more expensive package, we have the Gradiatali GTO Stinger TT for $2,380,000 for the base price of the vehicle. But for those of you who have HSW available on your platforms, it's going to run you another $1,418,000 to get that HSW upgrade. Now with HSW, this thing is one of the very fastest vehicles in the entire game, top speed wise. Tops out at about 170 miles per hour, which is just insane. Granted, the handling is completely terrible, so it is going to be a little bit of a struggle to maintain that top speed, especially when you're weaving in and out of traffic. However, it does have some nice customization, and of course it does get the armor plating, as well as the oil slick proximity mine dropper, and the missile lock-on jammer, or of course, the remote control device. This isn't my favorite looking vehicle, but it's pretty hard to deny that the performance aspect of the vehicle, plus the IMANI tech capabilities, is insane. This vehicle is really, really, really good. It is going to come at a bit of a cost, especially if you get HSW for it, but it is well worth paying in my opinion due to that top speed. You're going to be able to get across the map pretty darn quick with this vehicle. The Stinger TT is awesome performance-wise other than handling, but it is an awesome IMANI tech vehicle too, and it's definitely worth owning. Now for some honorable mentions, we have got a couple of vehicles here that have had the IMANI Tech Missile Lock-on Jammer added as an available feature to them. The first of those is going to be the Imponte Duke of Death. This thing is free, and it can take about 4 RPGs or 9 homing missiles, and with the IMANI Tech Missile Lock-on Jammer now available, you can see just how good this thing is, especially for free, and anybody can get this thing for free. The only thing is with the Duke of Death is the performance is really not that awesome with it, but it is still a pretty good car, and for free, like, who can really complain about it, honestly. Another honorable mention is the Gallivanter Baller LE Armored. This is going to go for $374,000, and it can take 2 RPGs or 2 homing missiles. But they recently added the IMANI Tech Missile Lock-on Jammer to it as well, meaning that you can't get locked onto, which does help to improve this thing's usefulness quite a lot in online. So as long as you don't get hit by RPGs, you're probably going to be pretty fine for a while. The Baller LE Armored is a pretty good vehicle, and for the price of only $374,000, it's really not that bad. And at number 1, of course, we have the Bravado Buffalo EVX for $2,140,000 for the base purchase price of the vehicle, plus it's an additional $1,415,000 for the HSW upgrade. The EVX is one of very few muscle cars in GTA Online that are all-wheel drive. In addition to this, it's also fully electric, but I will say the handling on a muscle car that's electric is somehow better than the handling on a supercar that's electric or a sports car, which is very weird to me, but it definitely feels pretty good to drive in comparison to the Virtue and the Omni EGT. It's a really good car. With HSW, the Bravado Buffalo EVX tops out at about 140 miles per hour, which is pretty damn fast. And of course, it's an IMANI tech vehicle, being that it's on this list, so you can put the armor plating on it, as well as the missile lock-on jammer or the remote control device, and of course that oil slick proximity mine. Due to the fact this thing is all-wheel drive, and that it's an IMANI tech vehicle, and that you can put HSW on it, and that it has good handling and a good top speed, it's pretty hard to deny that the EVX is actually the best IMANI tech vehicle in GTA Online as it stands currently. Now, when I ranked all the IMANI tech cars, this thing didn't quite make number 1, but it was definitely within the top 5. But I've come to realize that this thing with HSW and everything else that it has is actually a pretty formidable vehicle. It truly is a great car, and it's hard to deny that this thing is the best IMANI tech vehicle in GTA Online. It's also electric, of course, so it does take 12 RPGs, 12 homing missiles, or 12 sticky bombs. So it's got better armor than all the other cars while having a pretty good top speed, as well as all the IMANI tech stuff and all-wheel drive. This thing is insane. It is a really, really good car, and it's definitely the one that I recommend owning the most. So there you have it, guys. Those are my picks for the 10 best IMANI tech vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online going into 2025. If you guys enjoyed the video, if you learned something, a like is of course appreciated. If not, dislike of course, and consider subscribing to my channel if you guys are new. Let me know what your favorite IMANI tech capable vehicle is in the comment section down below, and if you made it to the end of the video, comment a 7. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, take care. Peace.